Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Cowboys Culture Podcast. My name is Ethan. This is my brother Jacob and our good buddy Steven. This is a Cowboys-centered podcast where we talk about the Cowboys and we talk about the players and we talk about narratives about the Cowboys, and that's about it. So if you're looking for something else, this is not the podcast for you. So we kind of wanted to just start where we left off. The only thing that's really mattered so far is the Cowboys lost to the 49ers in the divisional round of the playoffs. So, what do we think has happened since then?
Yeah, so
Or what have we seen happen since then?
Yeah, I mean, back-to-back losses to San Francisco.
It's painful.
We did end Tom Brady's career.
We did do that.
Tom Brady lost his wife because of that.
Because of us, yeah.
So, because of the Cowboys, Dak Prescott ended his career and his marriage. So moving on from that, you go into San Francisco.
Rain Dakota.
Feeling really good about San Francisco going in that game. I feel like leaving Tampa Bay with that skin on the wall.
Yeah.
You felt really good going in that game. You
For
knew
sure.
we had the better quarterback going into that game, and that's – come on, what else matters in that late in the year?
Yeah.
So good first half.
Not bad.
Bad second half.
Defensively, it was good.
Defensively, it was great. Defensively, it started off
Really hot.
Really hot,
First play of the
yeah.
game, Oso Digizua.
loving that. Yeah, loving it. So, second half, they made the adjustments that we didn't. Their offense picked up a little bit. Kind of a miracle catch from Kittle that kind of changed momentum a little bit.
Yeah,
if
he had
you're
a couple of those, yeah.
Yeah, if you're a believer in momentum. So
I'm a heavy believer in momentum, actually.
I'm a momentum guy. You a momentum guy, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
However, I've seen some games where we've had momentum, and then all of a sudden, like, somebody does something and it completely shifts, like, drastically, like, very quick.
And I think that is the shift in momentum.
Yeah,
So,
true.
However, San Francisco, man, you wish we would have adjusted offensively.
And we just didn't.
Yeah.
First, I mean, we were pulling the same shenanigans in the first half that we were pulling in the second half, hoping they'd work, and they just didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, we got, if you can remember, the Turpin
That play,
return
yeah.
that we went to the 40 or something, and you have to put a touchdown into that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. And and then obviously that, and then Kelvin Joseph, who we all know and love.
Go Tigers.
He punched the ball out on a return, if you remember, and it was. I mean, we were at most the 30. I mean, the guy didn't get far. He turned around and punched the ball out. We didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah,
So-
and those are the things you're looking for in the postseason. You're looking for those little gifts, much like back to offensively for San Francisco. It works for Kittle. It doesn't work for us. And even with the gifts from Kelvin, from Turpin on the return, it just didn't materialize.
But honestly, you saw that pretty much the entire season. Turpin is a very good returner. I mean, he takes it almost to the 50 every single time he gets it, except for when he fumbled it against the Texans. So, I mean, there's no reason we shouldn't be scoring. But anyway, let's talk about some departures, gentlemen. What do we think? We lose to San Francisco, going towards the draft, optimistic about the next season, hoping for better things. Who do we lose? What happens? Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's one of those situations where it's like we lost some big name dudes on our team, right, that have been there for a long time. Guys like Elliott, guys like Schultz. We didn't lose really, a whole lot of people, but we did lose some guys that were, at least for a while, pillars of the team. However, I do think that, and we'll probably get into this later in the show, I don't know if it's going to be as critical that we lost those guys that maybe some people think. For example, when we lost, as opposed to when we lost a guy like Amari Cooper the season before, that was something. It's like our receiving core went from a strength to like, I don't know what we're going to do with these
A
guys.
one-man band, essentially. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
CeeDee Lamb's going to have to carry, but I think that this year,
Gave
losing
Gallup some money, but
guys
Yeah.
like if you want to talk about who are the most critical big name departures we've had, the three names that come to mind, we got Elliott, obviously we got Schultz, we got Kellen Moore. We'll talk about it more, but personally, I think, and at least kind of, I'm hoping, this might be as opposed to a Mari Cooper situation where it's a major drop off. It might be kind of an addition by subtraction.
Well, I mean,
situation.
Elliott, you get somebody who he's good at short. That everybody always says he's great at short yardage, and I'm a believer in that. I like that about him. Especially for example, like in that San Francisco game, there was a 3rd and 1. He got hit early, in the backfield, and he still
effort,
reached and second effort and got it.
Yeah.
But as a featured back,
yeah, Zeke.
you don't feature back somebody who
He was great.
who's just good at that.
Yeah, Zeke. 2023, 3.8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
A short yard back is pretty accurate.
Especially when you're paying him close to.
Yeah, he's
almost
getting
$20 million.
he's getting quarterback money. So
Yeah.
So I mean, hey, Zeke gonna be a legend around Dallas for a long time. Zeke was an easy guy to like, especially later in his career when he kind of got over some things, some bonehead young guy stuff. But that doesn't relate to the field.
Well, then you got Schultz, man.
Yeah, so you look at a guy like Schultz, great mustache, much like my good friend Ethan.
Much like me.
That was a big strong suit for him, the mustache game.
Yeah, same for me.
Yeah, for you too. Yeah,
It's really good.
Yep, I could see you playing tight end.
Yeah, I'm sure I could.
So Schultz, I've kind of made this point off the air. Schultz is a good tight end. He's an NFL tight end. He's going to be in this league for a long time. Bailed Dak out a little bit here and there.
I'm just not as big of a believer in that he's what bailed Dak out. I think he was just a warm body that was decent at tight end.
Yeah, and I
somewhere.
think that's the point I'm trying to make is like Dalton Schultz facilitates a role, and we have other Dalton Schultz on the roster already. You kind of look down the roster a little bit and you go, okay, Jake Ferguson, he's a Dalton Schultz. You look at Peyton Hendershot, a little undersized, but he can do what Schultz does. And those guys did do that for us late in the year. So I'm not crying home to mom because we lost Dalton Schultz.
Well, and I think I don't know if you're about to say something, but I don't think that like Jacob, like you said, I don't think losing Elliott and Schultz, you're not going to see a drop-off in performance from Dak and or the backfield. If anything, with Pollard being a featured back, it's not something where, can Pollard be a bell cow? I think it's something like you're kind of letting Pollard run loose and now not trying to be Zeke, but let Pollard be Pollard and see where that goes,
Fair enough, yeah.
So,
so, I mean...
Which we saw was great.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about as we go through position groups a lot of the players that on the team individually. But I mean, I think if we sum up everything that we're talking about when it comes to people we've lost, I mean, guys like Zeke, guys like Schultz, we as people, as players on the team and even on a personal level, like we love the dudes. Like they did great things at our franchise, but it's just one of those things that came down to the money, obviously. But like we've been talking about with guys like Zeke, it just seemed like it was time.
Yeah, it was time.
Also, the money situation. But guys like Schultz, we have guys to pick up that production.
Yeah, he became one of the older running backs.
Yeah,
in the league.
It's like we did lose some people, but I don't think it's going to be devastating. I don't think there'll be devastating losses. The biggest impact, the most impactful loss that we might have had, and we'll talk about this later, could be Kellen Moore, but. Just because of the play calling, that it's a huge thing, and so switching that up could create a lot of changes for us. But overall, when it comes to the departures, I don't think this was a huge thing for us this offseason. What I do think was a huge thing for us this offseason that I think we do need to get into are the additions, because that was big. This is something that typically the knock on the Cowboys or what, has been the narrative is Cowboys don't do anything in the offseason, right? Cowboys don't make moves.
Yeah, can I say?
But I think, I was going to say, I think we did, and I wanted to talk about a couple of those.
Yeah, I mean, and just before getting real into it, I'm kind of the older statesman here at the Cowboys Culture Podcast.
For sure.
Yeah, by millions of miles.
Millions.
But I will say, I do buy into the narrative that we don't do a ton in the off season. All right, traditionally, we're exceptional in the draft. But when it comes to free agency, we tend to miss the boat, it feels like, over and over. So I want to say that this was one of the most exciting free agency, off-season free agencies that we've had in a really long time, and I'm super excited about. And we can dive into these individual players, but I've never been so excited about free agency meets this year's draft, and I know we'll talk about that, but man, what an off season! So we can get into these individual.
It's been exciting.
Players.
Do you mind if I start?
Yeah, go with your.
I'm really excited about this one, and
Go for it.
I don't think. Well, honestly, everybody knows the two main ones, but I would say the one I'm most excited about is probably Brandon Cooks, simply because offense, it's attractive. You don't see pass breakups and say, oh my gosh, that's incredible, even though it is nice and everything. You see, who got a touchdown from Dak Prescott and scored a touchdown. We've had some guys for sure that are similar to him, but definitely not as dominant and as talented as Brandon Cooks, as that speed, that literal speed, like crisp route running, not only crisp route running, but like if he is on a go ball, you are getting burnt. For sure. And he's healthy. It's not like he's a guy who's really dealt with heavy injuries because he takes care of his body. And he's got, 8 to 10 years of experience as a vet in this league. I especially as a, two, like a high-end two. Like there's not many number 2 wide receivers much better than Brandon Cooks. And he at least is, or at best is probably a low 1 wide receiver, and he definitely was last season. So you add him with CeeDee Lamb, and I know a lot of people have said this, but I agree with Dak. I think CeeDee Lamb will be if not the best wide receivers in the league this season, especially with that kind of help and a healthy Gallup at 3. Don't sleep on that boy Gallup, man. He's tough for sure.
Yeah, tough
toe
break.
tap swag, baby.
That's it, man. Tough
drag swag.
Toe drag. Yep. So tough break for Gallup, coming out of the contract, but just to elaborate on Cooks, super excited about Cooks. I think that's one of the most exciting off-season pickups I've ever seen as a Cowboys fan.
Sure.
So I'm super excited about it. A little bit of a fall off last year, but did Houston even exist last year? Don't get me started with our game against them. But
I don't mean to cut you off, but I think the most exciting part about that is like, oh yeah, you added Brandon Cooks, but look at what we did last season. People are like, oh, Dak's interceptions, all that kind of stuff, which we can get into later on, but.
Sure.
We were the most explosive offense in the NFL last season.
Yeah.
Right? And so all that being said, you take the most explosive offense in the league that was tough in the air quotes tough in the wide receiver position, but we're still one of the highest scoring offenses, and then you add somebody who can literally go from Dak throws a deep ball and you're in the end zone. How many times can you say that happened last season? It's not a knock on Dak. It's that we didn't have anybody to do it. I mean, Gallup's coming off the injury, and he's not exactly even he's fast, but he's not like Brandon Cooks fast. He's a bigger guy. And same for CD. CD Lamb is more of a just straight up cook you in his routes, and you don't even know where you're going. Your ankles are gone, right?
We've seen what CD can do over the middle.
Gosh, so he takes
Cooks,
a beating.
Yeah, for sure. Small guy taking a beating, but Cooks is that knock the top off the defense kind of guy. He's a downfield guy, man. I can think
it's
back.
Scary for sure.
I can think back to a young Brandon Cooks just doing that nonstop with Drew Brees. You know, you go back to 2021, dude had 21 yards on average per catch. I mean, guys, you know, Brandon Cooks, if you look at his stats, which I am right now, Brandon Cooks doesn't score a lot these days. He puts you in the red zones, what he does, you know.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, I mean, I'm super excited about it. Again, I think it's one of the biggest off-season moves I've seen as a Cowboys fan in a long time. Maybe it's just because it's an electric position, but
and think about this. This might be crazy to say, but like we mentioned before, let's say Turpin is still the returner for us. He gets us to the 50 or the other 40 on our side of the field or on their side of the field.
been known to do it.
Brandon Cooks takes off. You got one play and it's in the end zone.
Yeah,
It can be that simple.
Yeah, I think when Turpin does do that for us, or we do find ourselves early on that side of the field, depending on what they set up in, we are 10 times more dangerous because Brandon Cooks is on our team than previous. So yeah, just super excited about the addition. What do you say, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, clearly there's a reason why we're all excited. I think, you know, and I've talked for a long time with, I mean, you guys know about how Brandon Cooks really brings an element to the team that we've needed for a while. You know, just a guy that can challenge. You know, obviously he's got the speed. He can challenge that defense in a way that just opens it up. I mean, you know, takes the top off, but also gives CeeDee Lamb an opportunity to do what we know he can do. Because you got to focus on Brandon Cooks a little bit. But the thing is, you know, when I think about this offseason, obviously, yeah, we're all excited about Brandon Cooks, but I think, you know, a crazy thing is I think we could all equally be as excited for the Stephon Gilmore addition.
Definitely.
Oh, man.
In our secondary. I mean, if you look at, and me and Steven were talking about this the other day, I mean, the opposing offense's strategy against us was basically just like, where's Diggs not? And that's where the ball's going. And, you know, Dan Quinn did, to his credit, he was able to figure it out eventually, but it was effective. And so really I think the addition of Stephon Gilmore, it was a huge need. It was something just like, man, like a major weakness now that I think is off the table. Now it goes from weakness to a strength. So I think he's going to him and Cooks are going to make a huge impact on the team. So yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Any other?
Well, when you look at just to dive into Stephon Gilmore a little bit more, when you look at the games specifically, like when we played Green Bay with Rodgers, I mean, Diggs barely got. I mean, if he did get targeted, it's not much. Who was getting picked on? It was Kelvin Joseph. It was Alexander, Alexander. It was, you know, whoever we had playing.
It's just throw away from that guy.
Throw away from Diggs. And same thing with the Jaguars game. I mean, that we lost those two games that we should have won. Truly, we should have won those games. We lost simply because our cornerback 2 was just, I mean, eventually we got to where, I mean, we had to start benching people, throwing people out, because we just had nobody. And it's not to say that any of these guys are going to be like Stephon or Diggs are going to be a lockdown, which I think they can be. I think lockdown is just more of you have to go through your progressions longer. And then once you take that time, then you have to you're at threat of getting hit by the best pass rush in the league. Shout out Micah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Stephon, you know, I think the biggest thing people worry about with Stephon Gilmore, again, super great addition, very exciting addition, especially when you are vulnerable on one side of the field like we have been. He's 32. The problem with it is, though, he's sort of an ageless wonder. Everyone's saying he's 32. He's 32. How much does he have left? Well, he hasn't showed signs of slowing down yet. I mean, if there was ever a cornerback version of Brady with almost as many rings, it's him. He you know, I'm looking at him right now. I mean, this guy has been shut down in this league for, you know, since you guys were babies.
Yeah, I think PFF had him as like the number 1 or 2 man coverage corner. Yeah. And I mean, to add that to what we have on Diggs, you know, we know Diggs as that ball hawk guy, really great in zone coverage. I mean, I think it's just going to be devastating for the opposing offenses. I think takes our secondary to an elite level in the league. So, I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I would say that we should kind of like, I don't know, to just break down the draft right now would just kind of be a lot. Let's just talk about key additions and include draft picks. I mean, you got Mozzie. You know, you add Mozzie, strength, upside potential.
We're about that life.
Yeah, we're all about that life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Shout out Dan
I
Quinn.
think just going along, this is kind of like my, and you guys can tell me if you agree with this, but, my overall thoughts on when it comes to the key additions, you look at a guy, we've talked about Brandon Cooks, we talked about Stephon Gilmore, you're talking about Mozzie. I think when you look at these key additions, all three of them, it's like when we looked at that loss in San Francisco, and we looked at where were our weaknesses, what are the areas in our team that we need to strengthen, and it's like, man, we went all out, in my opinion, this offseason by addressing that wide receiver 2 situation, addressing that cornerback 2, and then we said, what was the only other thing people could do against us, and it was run up the middle, right? And we went out there, we get a guy in Mozzie Smith. Obviously, people have their thoughts and opinions on him, but man, the reports are if he could do anything. Yeah, if he could do anything, he could stop the run up the middle, right? And so it's like, if you can't do that on us, you take that weakness away. I mean, ultimately,
and in all honesty, like, critics could say, oh, well, he hasn't played in the NFL yet,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know. But let's be honest. I mean, a first-round talent, with a system that Dan Quinn has put in that is just, it's built, it's there, it's got a good culture. You think that, especially we've got Oso Odigizua, who's performing well for us, and he was a fourth-round pick? And, he comes into this system, and he is performing way better than he should because we have a great D-line coach, Dan Quinn is great. I think Mozzie is going to be great, and if he is great, that D-line with Big Hank.
Yeah,
being able to where Quinn is comfortable saying to those guys that eat quarterbacks, number 11, if you're keeping up with the roster. So it's hey, we've got this run, guys. Nobody has to sit back anymore. Pin your ears back. Armstrong, Dorrance, what's the guy's name? Parsons out of Penn State. So it's hey, go eat, guys, because they're not having to sit back anymore. Yeah, Sam, absolutely.
Man, Sam's going to be a beast.
So you've got and then the resurgence of LVE, if that stays strong.
Bad year, good year.
Yeah, we get flip flops from him, but the Wolf Hunter all the same. But,
still.
This run game going to he's never played an NFL down. There's merit to that, especially in that position.
For sure.
But man, does he have the right coach?
Yeah.
And he doesn't. And the thing is we don't need him to be. The defense itself is already insane.
It's already solid.
We don't need him to be a Pro Bowler year one.
It's already the best defense in the league.
If all we need him to be is even a solid contributor. But if you look at the trend the past few years in our first round picks, it's not just solid contributor. It's like
it's star,
people
star
that end up that have the potential to be core people on the team. So, but even if he's somewhere between that and just solid contributor, I mean, he's going to make I think tremendous impact on our defense. And so overall, like I was saying, in terms of personnel, players that we brought in this offseason, I think far outweigh the key departures that we've talked about. But one thing I wanted to talk about, one of the last things I had in the additions are, we talked about we lost Kellen Moore. Schottenheimer as the OC, Mike McCarthy calling plays. I mean, that could be huge.
And I believe that they say, well, it's going to look a lot the same or whatever, but in my opinion, I mean, it's a totally different scheme. I mean, he's a West Coast, Texas Coast play caller. I mean, that's pretty different. Now, in my opinion, people have just ran with that narrative that, oh, you don't want to score points? That's all. That's not what he said. It's just not what he said. He wants to. He's taking shots at Kellen. He's like, this dude didn't know he had a good play, maybe drawn up, just didn't know when to call it, and that's not absurd to say about somebody. That's why he didn't get fired. But it's just like we moving in different directions. We've got a team that wants to do big things, and when you're not calling the right plays at the right time, that is where, when you need to move on to something different. I mean, Kellen and Jason Garrett, they're pretty much this. They're from the same tree, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, so you
need something new.
You think Kellen, just like Jason Garrett, and just like Ezekiel Elliott, that thing kind of came to an end, right? We got what we were going to get out of that, and that's that. So, Kellen Moore moving on to San Diego, gets a new young quarterback out there.
L.A.
Excuse me. Yeah. NFL, please don't sue the podcast. So that thing ran its course. Teams probably didn't. Defensive coordinators out there probably weren't even having to watch film on us anymore.
That's true.
The San Francisco is a cosmocosm of like just that was Kellen Moore in a nutshell. Man, he comes out strong, and then you kind of know what he's going to do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's like we did so well during the season. We had so many high moments under the scheme, but it just seemed like in the key moments, when we faced defenses with good defensive minds, experienced guys,
D'Amico Ryans.
We just couldn't really. It's like we couldn't make anything happen, and so that's why I thought when talking about key additions. I had thought for a while, it wasn't that Kellen Moore was doing bad, but it seemed to me that maybe we needed a change. Maybe we needed some experienced, proven guys, like a Schottenheimer, like a Mike McCarthy. And I'd just like to see how Dak performs under a new situation with some experienced play callers, people like Mike McCarthy, having a bigger role in the offense. Guys like Mike McCarthy who are known for their QB development. I like to see how Dak does in this, and so, I think that could be a key addition. We'll have to see.
Just really quick, if you look at that San Francisco game, kind of where we started off, both games actually, San Francisco has blown people out. They just have an explosive offense, and they have so many weapons that can hit you hard. You can tell that Dan Quinn really just kind of bodies Kyle Shanahan, which nobody really does. I mean, he knows him. He was his head coach for the Falcons, and he just knows him, and he shut him down. I mean, under 20 points, I think both games, or I think they had 21 in the first one.
20-something, yeah. But I mean, it was.
But I mean, that's still by all means is a low-scoring game. Now, you look at us. I mean, we were completely shut out. Whereas when we play other teams that may not have a solid defensive coordinator or defensive scheme, I mean, we're putting 40 on them. Shout out the Eagles. When they don't have competent coaching on the defensive side, we blow them out. So anyways, also, moving on, I wanted to talk about, possibly Schoonmaker. We got Schoonmaker in the second round of the draft. We thought we were going to get a tight end in the first round. Well, we got one in the second.
Yeah, I mean, when Micah Parsons tells the defensive coordinator who to draft, you move on from your original plan.
You figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. So
Jerry was like, "Oh, yeah. Micah said, okay, we had somebody.
Yeah,
okay,
we had somebody picked
Draft
out,
him.
but Micah, Micah move over Will McClay.
Yeah.
So anyway, Schoonmaker. Super excited. I guess we were just really Michigan focused in this draft, especially early on. So, I would say I'm kind of the college football blowhard on this panel. Watch a lot of Big Ten because I get up early. Because real teams play at night. Big Ten kind of an 11 o'clock deal on Central Time here in Dallas. So. Anyway, Schoonmaker, I got to see him a little bit, and of course got to see him, in the postseason of last year. Dude can flat out play. Mm-hmm. Big old boy.
Which is so exciting,
the,
dude.
The guy.
We haven't had somebody like that in forever.
I agreed. Yeah. Listen, I mean, when it comes to blocking, this is a legit individual. When it comes to hands, this guy can play. And he's really something to be excited about.
Mm-hmm.
Flip side of that, somebody that was already here that showed a little promise, especially kind of into the season, Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson obviously has some hops. If you watch football on Thanksgiving, you know that.
Yeah.
So, again, hand skills, I don't know if he's quite the blocking tight end that we're going to see out of Schoonmaker, because this guy, I'm telling you, this guy can flat out play. Maybe the guy I'm most excited about, at least from the draft. Schoonmaker, yeah, high on Brandon Cooks as far as the guys we brought in all together, but as far as the draft, Schoonmaker gets me really excited. I feel like this guy can really contribute early on.
And one that I feel like, just really quick, that I feel like so many people just skip over so fast that we've gotten in the draft, is Overshown. I mean, the dude is in college was
Fair.
just I mean, Big 12, whatever. People have their critiques about, what conference they play in college, but the dude was a beast. I mean, he's basically Donovan Wilson in the frame of a linebacker /
Like a
Curse
type guy, yeah.
Just Curse just a little bit faster and looks a little bit more athletic, in my opinion.
And Curse is fast.
Curse is a beast.
Yeah.
And if you're putting that person as linebacker, and he is the Curse Curse of the linebacker group, I don't know how that person doesn't make an impact. And he seems to be somebody who's got a personality that can fit into the culture of the team, that is willing to put the work in. And so I'm excited about him for sure.
This team has swag, boys.
Yeah. So I mean, if y'all are good, just kind of summing it all up, and you guys can tell me if you think differently. It seems like the consensus in terms of just what we've done since San Francisco has been really let go of some pieces that maybe either were limiting us, maybe we didn't really need, even though
Do you think Brett Marhart was limiting us?
At the end, he was.
Depends on the game.
During the season, it was like he was automatic from anywhere. Yeah. I mean, he could be in the stands on the other side of he could be outside the stadium and kick it through the field goal.
Tampa Bay over under 10 old Milwaukee's. How drunk was this guy?
I mean, he was worse than All Day Garibay, that's for sure.
That's for sure.
Different area.
But yeah, you're
area code All Day Garibay.
But you are right, Jacob. I mean, not crying about some of these guys that are out of here.
Yeah.
Super
As
excited
good
about
of teammates
who's
as maybe
coming.
some of them were, it's like it seems like it was their time, even for a guy like Kellen, who did a lot of good things here, but it just seems like it was time. But then when you look at, so when you contrast that to the additions, it just seems, I mean, at least to me, it just seems like we went down the line and made not just what we've done in the past by bring in a random guy for cheap, but like went out, got quality individuals to fill holes in our team. And on the bright side, we didn't really have to give up much for it either. So I'm very optimistic overall about, when you look at overall who we lost compared to who we got and what we did to address the weaknesses and the roster overall, and even the coaching staff. So yeah, I think from that day, that loss to today, I think we are a significantly better football team.
And keep this in mind. We were a 12-win team last season.
I think
so take that 12 wins team last season, and the consensus is that, I mean, don't listen to the three-letter networks that'll tell you that, we don't know. No, we got significantly better, especially at our weak points. Not only did we get better at our weak points, we now are in a good spot with our weak points, and everything else stayed the same. Yeah. So very optimistic.
Yeah, those networks you're referring to keep coming back to. They'll overlook all of this just to say that 4 is the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
And man, you could build a whole show around that, right? So
certainly could.
But if he's the problem, just hypothetically, if Dak is the problem, man, what a team that's built around him. You know, would you have liked to seen something better out of Dak last year? Was it maybe one of his down years? Sure. And he strung together win after win late in the year when he came back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
Did it with a team that couldn't stop the run. You know, defense keeping him out there quite a bit.
Which is a beat down, man.
Yeah, it is. But no, just to your point, Jacob, significantly better. And it's been a long time, boys, since the Dallas Cowboys have gone off into an offseason and just made these kind of moves. They freed up the money where they needed to free it up at, those things that had kind of run their course, i.e. Zeke, and took that money and went and spent it. And that's it's time to get excited around here for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm also excited to see, like, you know, what we talked about, Dak. I'm excited to see him under a new scheme and situation. I think this is a chance to really get to see what he's made of, and it's a chance for him to prove himself. And I'm excited to see that. But so overall, it seems like we're very optimistic about the offseason, what we've done, what we've changed, coaching staff changes, things like that. We've talked about that. But what I want to do real quick, you know, as we are, you know, because of training camp is, I mean, next week, right around the corner. So I wanted to kind of shift into talking about, you know, the team that we have right now, just overview of our offensive positions and different players, our defensive positions, and talk about where we are before we really get into talking about some of the things we wanted to discuss about camp predictions and things right around the corner. But yeah, so starting off, like, let's talk about the offense. Like, what are you guys thinking about our offense, our offensive lineup overall? Maybe starting with the O-line. Like, how are we feeling? What are your thoughts?
I think that to give, like I mentioned, those three letter networks, and a lot of people are they're grasping at straws for content. Even some Cowboys content people. The O-line is going to be what you think it is come week one. You know, Terrence Steele is more than likely going to be healthy. You know, they've been saying that his rehab's gone really well. You're going to have Zach Martin there. I'm almost 100% certain we're going to have that resolved. I mean, he's the best guard in the league. He's going to be there at right guard.
Just yesterday, as we're recording this, Zach Martin, it became obvious he's going to hold out going into camp.
Possibly.
The news was that he considered it. But I couldn't agree more, Ethan. This is an obvious starter. This offensive line, the starters are obvious. We got a healthy, for who knows how long, Tyron Smith, one of the best that ever did it. Zach and Tyler Smith. This line is solid.
Yeah, I mean, they better hope.
Well, and the biggest thing that people, to me, it's just ridiculous. Like, you know, are the Cowboys? They're not going to just. I mean, they're not going to just come out and give you their hand. You know, I think I heard. I forget who it was that I was listening to, but I heard somebody say, does Tyron Smith get hurt all the time? Yes. But hamstring off the kneecap or knee bone, like your knee, it's not common to him. He'll play a good portion of the season. Let's hope he gets the whole season. And if he does, he will be playing at left tackle. I can almost stamp my name on that. Yeah. And I can guarantee you that Tyler Smith is not going to just sit the bench because he's not playing left tackle, and you're not going to put Tyler Smith at left tackle and make Tyron Smith sit the bench.
Yeah, because, hey, kudos to Tyler because he came in and played out of position from down one, right?
He's a dog.
He is a dog. So, I mean, everybody's going to be in position. Tyler Smith proved that he can play anywhere on this line, maybe except for Biotich's position. And he might could do that. Who knows? But
he's just got so much talent. I mean, my overall thoughts on the
athleticism for a lineman is insane. Man.
Yeah, my thoughts are, the opposing team, the NFC, they better hope that our O-line doesn't
stay healthy.
Because I mean, if you have Tyron Smith the whole year, I mean, Tyler Smith at left guard. He's just got. I mean, he did so good last year, and I think coming into it, having a full off season, man, I think he's gonna be so much better. You got an alternate Pro Bowler in Biotish. Obviously, we know about Martin, and then Terrence Steele was just such a solid piece at right tackle. I think with that lineup, people knock on our O-line, but we never had a fully healthy O-line last season. I think we have the potential to have a top O-line in the league. So I'm excited about that when it comes to the O-line.
Yeah, I mean, at one point you had, Biotish was out close to the end of the season for like a game or two, and then Tyron Smith comes back in, and Terrence Steele tears his ACL, and so now you got your left tackle playing right tackle, no center. Center comes back. Now you've got a 40-year-old Jason Peters playing left guard, Tyler Smith playing left tackle, Connor McGovern, who's I guess is now playing for the Bills, I think, and I mean you don't want that in your O-line. Is what you want in your O-line is continuity, and we had everything but that except for Zach Martin consistently playing at right guard, thank God. But overall you've got the backups, which we can kind of be quick on because, again, like I said, it's obvious. You got Chuma, you got Asim Richards that could back up those positions, but
the depth is deep.
The depth is there, but it's nobody's going to take it. None of those guys are taking jobs. Josh Ball's not taking a job. None of those guys are taking jobs. But I mean, I think the next position group that we can kind of talk about is receiver, which we already kind of talked about with Brandon Cooks, with that addition as our number 2 receiver. I don't think, again, there's nobody. Tolbert's not going to come in here and take Gallup, Cooks, CD. Nobody's taking CD's job.
Sure.
So I mean, I'm optimistic about I think Gallup being fully healthy is a huge thing, especially considering he's going against number 3 corners and not sometimes number 1, sometimes number 2 corners. He's great, but he's not a number 1, and he's a really great number 3. I think you can put him up against most number 3s, and he's up there. Same for Cooks. Same for CD at the 1. So I think that, I mean, that's just what I think, and I think that emerging role is open for anybody who wants to come in, off the bench, from the practice squad, a free agent later on down the road. It's open for them to kind of, show out or shut up, or leave, so.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good time to be excited about what we can do at receiver. We obviously have one of the best receivers in the NFL, and the guy that we've already covered on the other side. We are going to be electric early on in games when these guys are fresh and out there starting. Again, exceptional tight ends on the inside. And, not to jump ahead, but Pollard out of the backfield also has some hands.
Definitely.
He's definitely a legitimate receiving weapon.
When our boy Tony gets loose, we know what happens. Yeah. So, super excited about receivers. Agree with everything you said, Ethan, as far as, this thing's wide open too,
Yeah.
So
at least the number 4 is for sure, which
right.
we're not exactly worried about if it doesn't go well.
I mean, with the excitement of Cooks and CD, you forget Michael Gallup's an exceptional receiver.
Yeah, he really is.
And it's almost like when one of those guys has to come off the field, you got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Michael Gallup is a standout receiver in this league.
Mm-hmm.
So, as long as he can stay upright. I mean, just 4's got some weapons.
Yeah, I think overall the takeaway from the receivers is, at least from my perspective, is it's something that was a question mark, maybe even a weakness overall last year, and I think it could be seen as a strength this year, which is exciting with some of the pieces that we added. But how about tight ends? We've already talked a little bit about them, but personally, I think this could be the area with the most question marks on the offense. I think this is where we had really the least proven guys. It's a lot of young dudes. It's a rookie and some year 2 guys. But I mean, in from what we have seen of them, what we know of them, we've seen a lot of promise and potential. So I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I go back to, the guy out the door was Dalton Schultz. I don't think we got better, and I don't think we got worse as of right now. I think the potential of getting better at tight end exists for us. We have a deep tight end room at this point. Heck, man, somebody's got to go at this point, right?
Yeah,
So
I think you would want Schultz week 1, week 2,
fine,
and even week
yeah,
3.
Fine.
But beyond that, I think we're solid. Like if you're going to do some blocking stuff.
Hey, and unless camp tells us something different,
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson's the week 1 starter around here.
Yeah.
Big old dude. He can block well enough. He's obviously good catching the football. He's not going to do anything electric on you. This isn't Travis Kelce we're talking about here, but he's a solid NFL.
Thanksgiving.
I've heard Travis Kelce 2.0 conversations.
Thanksgiving, he did hop over somebody.
Yeah, the thing is when he gets the opportunities, he didn't get many opportunities, but when he did, he shined. I'm pretty sure.
Good point. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw some kind of stat that it was like yards over expectancy. He was like the number 2 guy on our team. I think it was like CeeDee Lamb or Pollard that was number 1. Like when he gets the ball, he makes things happen. So I'm excited about him. I mean, adding Schoonmaker to the mix, a dude who is what we've seen, or from what we've seen in his college tape, somebody that people say is going to come in at the very least. He's going to be almost pretty much an elite blocker. So yeah, I mean, just overall, when you look at the tight end group, maybe there's some question marks, but I mean, I think there's so much potential upside there, and it's exciting. Just finishing out the offensive side of the ball. We know what we have in Dak. I mean, despite what anybody wants to say, I mean, this dude is a top 5 quarterback in the league. Top 6, I think, is at very minimum.
I agree.
So we know 4 we trust, baby.
Yeah, we know we're strong there. I mean, obviously we know who our backup is, and Rush we trust, right?
Correct.
But then, when it comes to running back, we also know what we have in Pollard, for sure. We know how explosive the guy can be. When you look at our team, people are going to say what they're going to say after Zeke. Can Pollard carry the load? If you go back and you look at last year, some of the best running performances we had was where Pollard was taking the whole load. I mean, the dude shined in the moments they gave him. And so I don't. When it comes to running back, if we need to add a dude that can get short yardage, we got the cap room. I trust him to figure that out in camp. But I think we're in a good spot overall.
Malik Davis can go get that.
With offense,
can go get you 2 yards.
Yeah. So yeah, offense. I think like we've filled so many spots that we needed to. We're in such a great spot. I think to be considering we were already the number 1 offense. Take that next jump when we need to in the playoffs. So yeah, but with that, transitioning into the defensive side of the ball really quickly, Ethan, if you want to give us kind of a breakdown of that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that we already know what our defense is. There's nobody who has come in except for maybe Mozzie on the defensive tackle, and that is going to take anybody's job. And even then, I think he's going to be in a rotation between Hankins and Osa. I mean, nobody's taking Stephon Gilmore's spot. Nobody's taking Diggs, Hooker, Curse, and Dono. Nobody's taking those spots. As good as Israel Mukuamu is, maybe he's a rotational person there. Nobody's taking his spot. We've got a top slot corner in Bland that's emerging. Nobody's taking their spots. And you can take nobody in the NFL is taking Micah, and very few people are taking D-Law's spot. So, I mean, I would just say the backups that we have would be something to look out for camp, that you could say, oh, this might be a good battle for camp and for preseason games. But outside of that, the defense, secondary, safeties, I mean, linebackers would be the only spot where you could say, okay, maybe Overshown could, if he does super show out in camp, maybe he could be something special. But people are saying that Damone Clark's a very good player. He just had injuries that, kind of slowed him down, but he's still a beast, and nobody's taking LVE's job. He's the pinnacle, linebacker on our team, and so our defense is pretty much set in stone. It's the best defense in the league. The Eagles have holes in theirs. Other teams like that people are considering, top defenses. Even the Niners, they don't have as good a defense.
Yeah,
as
it can
us.
build a whole show around maybe those three teams' defenses,
Yeah,
especially over the NFC. So.
Yeah, we have the best defense in the league, bar none, in my opinion. So, I mean, and with that,
That's big talk.
Yeah, that is big talk.
But I mean, I don't see how you
let's go to camp. Honestly, let's move past this kind of position breakdown, which we could talk about all day.
Yeah.
If we're looking at camp, let's talk about standouts. Let's talk about maybe some camp battles, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, I mean, you look at camp. I'm excited to see this tight end battle in camp. I'm excited to see if Schoonmaker can step up there with the likes of Ferguson and I guess Hendershot and maybe solidify his role on the offense. A lot of running backs to go through. A lot of running backs. Tony Pollard. As far as I'm concerned, Tony, if you ever come across this podcast, take camp off. So, but we're obviously we know what Malik Davis can do. He showed us some stuff last year. And then you go all the way down the list, and you get to this exciting name that everyone keeps talking about around here, Deuce Vaughn.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Little guy, shifty guy. Keeps getting that Darren Sproles narrative. We'll see about it. So that's going to be exciting in camp to see where he kind of finds his way onto this team. Somebody's not going to come. Somebody's not taking the trip to New York City week one. These running backs are so deep. So that's going to be a fun battle to watch.
What are your predictions? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to be RB2?
RB2 is going to be Malik Davis for me as we sit here right now. We haven't got to camp yet. When we get to Oxnard, who knows what some of these other guys might can show the coaching staff. But I personally, I don't want to get too deep into this, I personally am not huge on Deuce Vaughn. I know the rest of the world is. It usually doesn't work with that size, unfortunately. I know this is an exciting back. He was extremely exciting at Kansas State. Shifty. Dad's in the front office. Maybe that helps out a little bit. But I do think he makes a team, and I do think he plays some sort of role this year. We'll just kind of see how that goes. Can't wait to see who is the Turpin of this year's camp, who's kind of that
that was huge.
that guy that comes out of nowhere. Can't wait to see who that is. And
honestly, just Mozzie and pads, man. Just seeing Mozzie kind of
for sure
put people in the dirt and really show off his talent where it can be shown, rather than how it was in like OTAs and minicamp.
Yeah, for sure. See who wins this quarterback battle between Rush and Dak. That'll be fun to watch. Congrats, Cooper Rush, though, got paid this year. Thanks a lot for last year, man. Kept us alive, and we wouldn't have been where we were without Cooper Rush. So.
And honestly, just real quick for camp, I'm just so excited to see the cornerback and wide receiver battles, man. Just seeing I don't care who wins them. I just want to see it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. Yeah.
Speaking of camp.
With camp coming up, this being your new favorite Cowboys podcast, Cowboys Culture Podcast will be at camp. The two brothers here,
Indeed.
Ethan and Jacob, are headed out next week to camp. They will be live, which is why you are going to want to check out our socials, Instagram, Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You're going to want to see the content that we bring back from camp while we're at camp. I'll be waiting for them to get back because we will also be at preseason game number 1. There will be plenty of content, plenty of content coming out of this podcast during training camp and on into the season, on into preseason, on into the regular season. We are local to Dallas. We will be at games bringing you firsthand content.
For sure.
Want to give a shout out to our first sponsor, 360 Roofing and Restoration. Get with Coy and the boys if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for
to 360. Yeah, for sure. So we're going to wrap it up here, and we will see you at camp via social media, and then directly after these boys get back, we'll be putting together episode number 2 for you, and then on into the preseason. Look forward to seeing everybody then. Thanks.
See y'all.
Thanks.